Hello and welcome on Thomas Geiger Car. Today with the new Mercedes CLS, the third generation of the first coupe limousine that shaped the market, and the latest addition to the growing family of the Mercedes E-Class. If you want to know what to expect from that vehicle that is due to the market later that spring in Europe, join me on my test drive and I'll tell you more about it. Driving the CLS has somehow two different faces. On the one hand, it's a very reasonable drive with lots of high-tech features from E and S class. So you can almost drive hands-free due to the intelligent drive systems with the adaptive cruise control and the lane keeping assistant. But on the other hand, it's a car that you don't like to be driven by the autopilot, that you like to grab and you like to drive it on your own. It is not as dynamic and as aggressive as a BMW 6 Series, but it is also not as boring and not as neutral as the Audi A7 and as the E-Class limousine. So it's really a car that pleases the driver, that stimulates the senses, and that you want to take on a long journey on a curvy country road. For that, Mercedes has developed three different setups for the suspension. The conventional steel suspension for the entry models. You got a suspension with adaptive dampers if you want to go on the sporty side, and you got an air suspension if you like it more comfortable. And either way you choose it, you got different drive profiles to adjust it to your liking. Under the bonnet, the CLS is closer to the S-Class than to the E-Class, because as the first model of the family, it benefits from the new engines that were launched in the flagship model last year. So we have inline 6 cylinders instead of V6 cylinders, and we have EQ boost technology, the 48 volt driven starter generator that adds another 22 horsepower of punch while accelerating, and that helps to recuperate more energy and to save more fuel with that. The CLS will be available as a CLS 200, CLS 300 and a CLS 450 on the petrol side, ranging up to 357 horsepower. In Europe, for example, we will also have two diesels, the CLS 300D with 286 horsepower and the CLS 400D with 340 horsepower. And in Europe, AMG will also kick in, for example, as well in the US, with another new engine, the CLS 53, combining the 435 horsepower version of the inline 6 engine with the EQ boost of 22 horsepower. Sadly, we have to say goodbye to the CLS 63. The V8 engines are reserved for the AMG GT with 4 seats. The CLS has always been a car that is more about form than function, and that's even more so in the third generation, because the designers have not compromised in any detail for the great look. So it's all about proportions, silhouette and styling, and they don't need much lines for that. They followed the rule: if you like it, take a line off; if you still like it, take another line off. So the shape is very, very clear, very precise and very, very emotional. The thing where people might discuss the most is the front, because with this shark nose It reminds me a bit on a car that definitely doesn't fit to Mercedes, but if you look closer, it could also be the front end of a Ford Mustang. Unmistakable Mercedes is the shoulder line, the roof line, and if you see the car from the back, it is a real bold statement, beautiful but also powerful. Compared to the E-Class, it is lower, it is wider, and it is more passionate. So it is really the car for the people that want to show off and don't want to wear the business suit all day. The CLS is based on the E-Class, but it's making use of the new technologies of the recently updated S-Class. That stands not only for the powertrains and the driver assistance systems, that's also true for the interior and for the comfort features. So now you have the big dashboard of the S-Class without that plastic bar in between, but sadly still no touchscreen, like you will have it at BMW, for example. And you have these amazing energizing functions that are changing the vehicle to a spa on wheels. So if you go into the menu and set energizing comfort, you can start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different programs that are combining air condition, sound, air perfume, seat massage, heating, cooling and music to give you a really well feeling, to cheer you up, to warm you, to refresh you and to make the drive a more pleasant one. It's not really high tech, but it's real worth making your trip memorable. Since the CLS is a car that should please all the senses, Mercedes has directed a lot of attention to the details. For example, with the Ambience lighting. Usually there is only an LED bar in here and around the doors to change the colors. But for the CLS, they've also illuminated the air vents. So if you change the temperature, it goes red for warm or it goes blue for cold. That is something really fancy and something you can really show off if you drive with other people in the night. The CLS is definitely a car for the people in the first row, and seating comfort in the second row is just average. It is better than in the outgoing model because Mercedes has slightly increased the wheelbase and optimized the package. But for a long drive, I would rather prefer an E-Class limousine. But your head and your knees have to pay the price for the beauty. And if you compare it with competitors like BMW 6 Series or Audi A7 Sportback, it's somehow the same. Trunk space has also increased a bit due to the outgoing model, but the bigger one, the shooting brake, will not be continued. This car will be sacrificed for the 4-seater AMG GT sports car. And you have to make your choice if you want to have a beauty or a beast, if you want to stick with Mercedes, or if you want to go to AMG in the future. Thank you for joining me on that first test drive with the new Mercedes CLS. For me, one of the most interesting members of the grown E-Class family, because it combines the high-tech features of the E-Class with the luxury and the comfort features of the S-Class. And it is a car that really pleases the driver. If you want to be driven, S-Class is the perfect vehicle. If you care for your family or for your business partners, you definitely go in an E-Class. But if you only think for yourself and maybe for your significant other, CLS is the right choice because somehow it combines the best of all worlds. Only disadvantage, you got to pay a little premium for that. But it's always expensive to have a good taste. Thank you, tschüsschen, and bye-bye.